Hello and welcome to Watching Worst Films, your guide to Razzie history. We have quite an odd episode for you this week. Not as advertised, we are not presenting our special on worst British movies. There's been a slight change to things, as you will have realised. And we are also, because of that, missing Kyle. I am Jericho Reed. With me, Marni Weinstein. Welcome back, Marni.
Thanks for having me.
So, listeners to the podcast will know we've done the last two installments in Gary Marshall's kind of unofficial holiday
Holiday.
trilogy. Yeah, so we roped you in for Valentine's Day, and little did you know when you agreed to a one-off podcast appearance, it would become a contractual obligation. So we're here to finish this, to release you from the curse, like Davy Jones being let off the ship in Pirates of the Caribbean. So Kyle is sick. Unfortunately, that's why we
So
have
he
the
says. So he
exactly.
says.
Yeah, yeah.
He
That's why
also
we have the
hates
change in
you.
schedule. But just coincidentally, the first episode that Kyle has had to miss completely has been for the series which he notoriously hates.
And the one film we both agree that he would probably like out of the three of them.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I'm
maybe we'll
sure.
just make him watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Next episode isn't going to be the British movie. It's going to be Kyle watching New
Yeah.
Year's Eve on his own.
By himself must record.
Yeah, we're just going to do this is New Year's Eve .5, and Kyle will give you the other half of the episode next
Yeah,
week.
exactly.
So yeah, we'll kind of talk about it as we go on, just because I am half a person, so half of my notes were just like, oh, Kyle would like that. I think Kyle would like that. It's just like I don't know. I'm like a long-term someone in a long-term relationship, like an 85-year-old man who's lost his spouse and just can't
Aw.
do things on his own, and it's like, oh, geez,
Well,
did you remember?
hopefully I can make up for Kyle's
You're
lack
the
of
you're the new wife.
presence.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of different, kind of new. Maybe this will work. It's different, but that could be good different. So, without further ado, let's get into this movie before I drag us down into any more horrible analogies. What is your experience with New Year's Eve? You've celebrated a few, but the movie,
Just a couple New Year's Eve. I'm 5 years old, but anyway, I I think I saw this film when it came out. I can't imagine that I saw it in theaters.
Yeah,
I recall for sure seeing Valentine's Day in theaters, and we talked about that in the
yeah,
first podcast, and I feel like I would have seen Mother's Day because
yeah.
clearly I'm an expert on these films, but I remember watching it. I don't remember this movie in as grave detail as I did the other ones. So it was
Yeah.
nice to rewatch, gets you in like the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the same film over and over, just with a different spin on it. So
Yeah.
nothing from us today will be all that different.
Marnie, you can't say that. We're trying to sell the listeners on
No, it's
something
gonna
here. We
be
can't be
better
like,
because Kyle's not here to dumb
yeah.
it down and make it all negative.
The
Me and Kyle
Grinch.
have a beef
Isn't-
now.
Okay, it's a good thing things are coming to an end because you know what, Marnie, I've never really cared for Kyle. I've always just been pretending. Ever since I first
Just
met him
been
at
pretend.
Asda, I was like,
No,
okay.
we love
Um,
Kyle. We love
yeah,
Kyle.
get well soon. Thoughts and prayers. As if he's dying. That would be. Imagine Kyle did die, and this is
This is
this is very.
horrible. No, he has a
People
fake
don't die
cold.
of COVID anymore. Yeah, yeah. He's not
He's
on his
got a
deathbed.
fake
He's merely
cold.
a liar.
Yeah, he's just a liar. He's out partying with his girlfriend. Let's be honest.
Yeah. He's out hooking up with Ashton Kutcher in a lift somewhere.
Obviously, he's stuck in a lift with Ashton Kutcher, hating New Year's Eve.
So my experience with this film, nothing. I stocked the DVD, as I will have mentioned on other episodes. These films were really popular as the so like I spent a lot of time just looking at this DVD as I refilled the shelves. I didn't see it. I kind of was vaguely aware of it as part of the trilogy, but like no real baggage for me coming in apart from recording these other episodes. Okay, I know you don't like this section, but nevertheless, I am going to put you on the spot. $56 million this movie cost. How much do you think it made?
Ooh, it cost 56 million.
That's the reported budget.
Probably because the cast is actually famous. That's what these films do, is they bring in actual famous people.
Yeah, yeah. This might be the most star-studded one.
I
Like,
think so.
yeah,
Or of
Mother's Day,
higher
they were like,
caliber.
yeah, yeah, like, yeah, like De Niro certainly is like
Yeah.
a different caliber. Whereas Mother's Day, they were just like, we've got
Yeah.
my friend says he's going to be in it. Um,
I don't know, that's a good question. I can't imagine all that much, but maybe like 100 mil?
Close, 142 million. So, like, not bad, not bad. A pretty decent.
It broke even.
Yeah, yeah. We're not like in the Marvel movie era where it's like this movie cost $500 million. How much do you think it made? 3 billion.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, decent profit. So
Is that just opening weekend or is that all
no, that's
together?
its total worldwide gross. I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
what it made opening weekend. Oh, it opened at number one at the box office with 13 million, and it made
Wow.
54 just in the United States and Canada. So yeah, yeah, okay, decent. I can see why they would make Mother's Day because this one was
Wait,
yeah.
didn't this one come when did this one come?
This was
Second?
two, yeah.
Oh,
So
we
I
just watched that in order.
Yeah, we went holiday order as opposed to
I
chronological. I didn't know though. I didn't know it was only with the post credit scene that I realized, okay, this was the second one. Valentine's Day existed. Because I didn't know if
Oh,
this
that
was
makes
what.
sense. Oh, that makes sense. All right.
Like a preview for like, hey, here's a movie that's good. What have we got here? Holidays will return in.
Well, so what Jericho is talking about is that we'll come back to it, but in a
Yes.
post-credit scene, they show the Valentine's Day DVD and
Samuel L.
Blu-ray.
Jackson produces the Valentine's DVD.
That's not what
And, like,
but I thought it was weird when I was watching it. I was like, why weren't they holding Mother's Day and Valentine's Day? That makes sense now
yeah,
that
yeah,
it
yeah,
hadn't happened yet.
yeah. Okay, so let's get into this. My first note was like, it kind of has like a nice score. Like, I'm so used to these movies just opening with like a big pop music. Like, we had Megan Trainor, didn't we, in Mother's Day? I'm sure we had something in Valentine's Day. But it opens with a nice little composition over like the Warner Brothers logo or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's a kind of pleasant surprise. And then you kick into your piece of licensed music. I can't remember what it was, but we then get shots over New York City, baby, because Valentine's Day was LA, Mother's Day was where? The South,
I don't know.
Atlanta, Missouri,
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
Atlanta. I thought it was interesting as well when they opened because in Mother's Day and Valentine's Day, they had the radio
Yeah.
person speaking over both, and they didn't
No.
do that with this one. They had one of the characters as the
That
overvoice,
was that was what's her name? Hilary Swank, wasn't it?
Hilary
Yeah. So
Swank.
she opens with the lines, "Some people swear there's no beauty left in the world, no magic. Then how do you explain the entire world coming together on one night to celebrate the hope of a new year?" And I was immediately being a party pooper, was like, well, the whole world, not the Chinese. They have their own. They have their own one. In fact, yeah, lots of cultures have different New Years, but I looked it
Lots of
up.
cultures have
They
their
do
own.
celebrate China do sort of acknowledge New Year. It's like, oh hey, cool, great. The big one is in a couple months, but so yeah, me trying to pick holes in this.
And they also make I find that in all three of these films, they do a lot of opening scenery images to try and get you pulled into
Yeah.
the city that it's in. And in the other ones, it didn't really matter so much, but in this
Would you
one, New
say
York
New
plays
York
its
is
own
almost like a character? Yeah, yeah,
character.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looks good. My note here was like the color grading of like the cinematography. It's kind of gray, and then they have like elements of color. It's kind of a bit desaturated, and elements of color, like people's bright jackets. They're skating on the rink, or like stores in front of Macy's. There's a little bit of visual
Well,
style.
also if you think about the
Yeah,
holiday, like when I think about Christmas, I think about
yeah,
London. But when I think about New Year's Eve, I think about New York
yeah.
because there's something specific, which is
We
the
don't have
ball
a
drop
ball. Yeah, nowhere else has a
center.
ball. So yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is the best use of setting because Atlanta,
Yeah.
whatever, Mother's Day, not really. LA is
Could have
fun,
been
but
done
yeah, exactly.
anywhere.
Could have been anywhere. Could have been Paris. Could have been wherever. But like,
It should have been Paris. That makes more sense. If they're gonna go on this theme, stick to it.
how many
Whatever.
famous French actors could you name, Marni? We'd have Marion Cotillard,
It would be
Vincent
all
Cassel, and then
Americans.
that would be it. It would be like, and then the
Yeah.
rest is just Americans on vacation or American
Yeah,
expats.
exactly.
Um,
The
yeah.
diplomats.
Don't mention that idea on the podcast, Marni. You should be writing your UN themed rom-com to. I guess they
Yes.
kind of made that with Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. Do you know, what was that one called? Do you ever see that movie?
No. What,
She's like a
were they in Paris?
yeah, she's like a politician and he's like a journalist. I can't remember. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I kind of liked it. They have
Seems like an odd
yeah, they
pairing.
have yeah, it was, but it kind of didn't not work. And they had like Alexander Skarsgård was basically playing Justin Trudeau.
Oh.
Of like, I think he was like, I'm the Prime Minister for Canada and I'm hot and I do yoga.
I do yoga.
Hey, look at me planking, everyone. Want to see me plank?
Oh my god.
Okay, so to further narrow things down, we have our space, New York City, we have our time. So they start off with the ball having dropped, and you see like 2011, and I gasped because I was like,
Me too.
2011. I was like, am I in this film? Because I spent like the New Year's into 2012, I was in Times Square for. So I
Oh,
was like,
cool.
I am in the world of New Year's Eve. I should be in that square watching these things happen.
You should be singing at the drop.
I was throwing things at Leah Michelle, being like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, bring back Jensen. I didn't pay money for this. I didn't pay money at all, but certainly not for this." But we are
I didn't come all the way from the UK just for this.
yeah, we are getting too far ahead of
We're
ourselves.
getting ahead
So
of ourselves.
the cast list. This was my first note. I don't think they show you all the names to begin with. So
They
I was,
don't, but what was interesting just before you go on about that, before we talk about the whole cast, because there are a ton of
yeah,
people. I, of course, started Googling
of course,
during
yeah.
watching the film, and I noticed that the way that they broke up the characters' names underneath the actor's name, they put in brackets like what storyline they were
Yeah,
attached to. And that was actually really, really
yeah,
helpful. I don't know, I didn't do this for the other films, but it's a quite interesting way to do it. And I also found, before we say the whole storyline, I found that there were less connections that
for sure.
happened over the cast. I named four,
Oh.
five, and the other films, everyone was always connected to somebody else in a different story.
Mother's Day was easy because there was like three stories. It was like, hey, here's three
Yeah.
mothers. But I remember, yeah, I remember Valentine's Day, you were really good with your web of connections. Whereas,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
This one had 6 stories because I wrote it down and I wrote down the main people to each
Wow.
story. And this one had 6.
An element of organization which has been hitherto absent from this podcast. Um,
I had to. But it's interesting. Like they have, and we'll go on, and I can even, when we talk about them, I can name what that storyline was
yeah,
called to help keep track of it. But it was a very organized way to
yeah,
do it
yeah.
for
Yeah, no,
viewers.
I noticed that as well, that they gave them little names like Todd and Tim and Party and things, and I was like, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
It makes it seem, yeah, it gives it a structure which I hadn't found in the other ones. So the
100%.
as I was struggling just to note down names, the first one I took note of was Seth Myers, because like Kyle, of course, loves keeping track of the SNL connections. Seth Myers, host of Weekend Update for God knows how long. He doesn't do a huge amount of acting, does he? Like he
No, I don't think I've seen him in a lot of things. Like everyone knows him from SNL,
exactly,
I
yeah. And
feel.
like Tina Fey probably ropes him into like, is he in Kimmy Schmidt or something? Like he occasionally crops up in very small roles, but like this is the
Yeah.
most acting I've kind of seen him do, I guess.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
he was
bad.
fine.
He just seemed like himself
Yeah,
though.
yeah. So this is the baby storyline. What is it called? What's the official name?
So that one's the maternity ward, and that one had Seth Myers and Jessica Biel were the
Yeah,
main,
they're the
and Sarah Paulson was in
yeah.
there. The main. group from that. And that one, I made a note saying that I found it super odd that these couples were competing for money over pushing their child out into the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. So we were texting because both of us left this to the last minute. This is an element where you do fit in well with the ethos of our podcast. Is both of us had left it
Last
until the
minute.
last minute, and so we both started at kind of round about the same time. And I was like, I need to not text you everything I want to talk about, otherwise the podcast will just be in our text messages between each other.
Yeah.
But that was for you. That like I sent you. I was like, oh my god, something like 5 minutes has happened. I just can't believe what is going on with this
A
movie.
lot happened in the first
Yeah,
5 minutes for
because
sure. My note was LOL pregnancy battle.
because yeah, the hospital reveals like they like Seth Myers and Jessica Biel are there for some like checkup, and another couple come in, and I think they someone reveals like we're choosing to give birth in this hospital specifically because this hospital specifically awards $25,000 to the first baby born in the
An
UK.
absurd
I
amount of
know,
money
yeah.
of like, congratulations, you had sex and now you're having a kid.
Exactly.
Sorry if that was
No,
TMI.
we know how the birds and the bees work on this show, Marni. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, so I was like, that's wild that this is a thing. And so the other couple are like we gotta go do this. And Seth Myers and Jessica Biel hadn't heard about this, which just made me think, like, what's the promo like for this
Yeah,
campaign?
how do you find
The
out
nurse
about this?
nudges them and is like, "Hey, if you fancy having a second child, like if you can make it back in 12 months, then there could be a little financial incentive for you." Like, who's like, or
Yeah,
yeah,
strategize when you're gonna get pregnant in order to come
exactly.
back.
Like, there's people who just try every single year, and they're like, "Oh god damn, I've got another kid I don't really want." Oh well.
Well, fast forward a little bit, you
Yeah.
do see later on that that couple has
You
3
think they're
kids.
all failed
So
attempts?
my oh, that would be awful, but my guess is that they probably had their kids at this
Yeah.
hospital, and through the years of having their kids there, found
The
out about this
the nurse was like,
experience.
"Oh, hey, your kid was born at like 5 minutes past midnight on April Fool's Day. If this baby been born 4 months earlier, you could have been in some money." What? What? Sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know about the program? Are you fooling me here, Doc? You're
Who
telling me that?
funds this too?
Exactly.
Where does the money come from? Like, and does it happen at every hospital? Because I'm gonna start organizing
This is
myself.
America. We don't like not to get all Donald Glover on you, but obviously you being from Canada, me being from the UK, the world of American healthcare is a mystery. It's like, well, yeah,
It's a
private
mystery.
health insurance, we're gonna charge you obscene amounts, but at the same time, we will pick one lucky person to win a baby Hunger Games of like, hey, that baby's good.
Okay, but do you know that it costs about $20,000 to give birth in an
I
American
do, which was
hospital?
what I was gonna
Won't quote me on that,
yeah,
but it's
it is in
about
that
that
ballpark.
much.
Yeah. So exactly, you're just
So they
breaking
just got a
even.
free kid.
It's like
They're breaking
it's like
even.
those competitions. I don't know if you have them in Canada. Oh, they have one at the place on Main Street, Lucy's, I think, the diner where they're like, if you can eat all this stuff, it's free.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, those
exactly.
kinds. I mean, I'm sure they have
They
them, but
just
I
have like
don't
exactly.
partake
They
in
just
that.
have like child version of, if you have this baby at the right time, it's free. It's on the house.
I wonder what the writers are thinking. They're like, "All right, we're gonna come up with 1,000
Yeah.
different rom-com stories, but one of them is gonna be having your child for
Yeah.
$25,000 on time, no tardiness."
Exactly, yeah. Like I really like those keep your hand on the car competitions.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that
yeah.
fascinates me. And there's like a really interesting documentary about that called like Hands in a Hard Body or something. Like an ex-girlfriend of mine won one. I'm just like fascinated by and yeah, she said that they kind of called it when it got to like four people or whatever and they'd been there for like over a day. She was like, "Okay, we're just gonna pick a number out of a hat for between you four because quite frankly we're surprised you all lasted this long and we don't want to be here any longer." So
I mean, Does anything really, I mean, I understand if it's a lot of money, but I still feel like, does anything really incentivize you to do something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's gotta be a shit ton of money.
She was like a teenager at a time, so it was her first vehicle and she like sold it. But I'm like, that must be
Oh,
infuriating if you're
that's a
like a
good one.
grown, like if you're a grown adult and you're like, I took a week off work for this contest and I've been me
Yeah,
back.
and a
Yeah,
teenager gets
exactly.
the
Yeah,
call.
yeah. Um,
Shame. Okay,
okay,
we're going
okay,
way
yeah.
off track.
So Seth Myers is like, hang on, Jessica, we need to come back because that could pay off my student loan. This kid could pay off my
Yeah.
student loan. Which I'm like,
Also, shout out to Jessica Biel because she is one of a handful of
yeah.
returning
Hmm.
actors to the franchise.
Yeah. So yeah, like that's I'm like, you're about to have a child, which is gonna be a like not small financial burden to you. And the thing that you're thinking of isn't like the kid's college fund or anything, it's paying off your student loans. It's just like I'm imagining him be like, oh sweet, I could buy a new Xbox with that. And her
Yeah.
just like, might not have as much time for Xbox as you would like. But my next note is just we are back. Like we are so back. So we'd had the rather disappointing cast for Mother's Day, but this one I was like, we've seen Beale, we've seen Myers, we've seen Swank, we might have seen Heigl at this point, but as the one that got
Yeah,
me
we have.
was Ashton Kutcher. And it was like kind of like long-haired Ashton Kutcher. And it's like, it's prime Kutcher. We're back. Like we're Ashton, we're in safe hands. Forget Jason
Well,
Sudeikis
Ashton
or
plays a really different
yeah,
character though as
yeah.
well. Very different. I prefer the other character, to be
He's more of
honest.
a yeah,
There,
I agree. Yeah.
and I'm also not the biggest Leah Michelle fan. I find that she doesn't have any range when it comes to her acting. Her range in her singing is
Yeah.
beautiful, but she is and I actually wrote this a ton in my notes. There are so many actors in this film who play exactly the same character that they play across
Yeah.
the board. I had a typical character for Zac
Yeah.
Efron, Leah Michelle, Katherine Heigl. Who else did I put that for? Sarah Jessica
Yeah,
Parker,
yeah, yeah, for
like
sure. Yeah.
Josh Jamal,
Oh
very,
yeah,
very
yeah. 100%.
same across the board, which I mean, they're good at it. That's why they got casted in those roles. It makes perfect sense. It's seven rom-com films put into
Yeah,
one.
for sure. 100%. It's like this is a kind of too cliche. Like no one's going to pay to see just this movie because this person has done this a million times before. But just to prop up
Yeah.
1/7 of an anthology film, we can kind of get by.
And people love
Yeah,
ensemble films
exactly. Yeah.
too.
It's like
I know I
yeah.
do.
It's a great holiday thing of like, you know what? It's nothing new, but it's kind of comforting. It's like Love Actually. Like people love Love Actually because it's kind of familiar and you've
Yeah.
seen it a million times and whatever.
I've never actually seen Love
Interesting.
Actually. I
Interesting. I
know.
don't know.
Shocking for me,
Yeah,
hey?
I don't know if you'd like Love Actually, I guess. Like you'd at least have the UK angle of like, oh my God, they all have
Yeah.
accents.
I'd probably appreciate it more
Yeah.
now that I've
Yeah.
had
It's very of
the
its
UK
era.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd like comparing notes of like, hey, that's not like that. Um, why
Where's the
why
realism
why
in
is it
this?
Mr. Bean freezing to death in their horrible apartments without any heating? Yeah.
And also going back to the scene, which is behind Jericho, which he picked a terrible picture, but anyway. Um, a couple that doesn't know each other getting stuck in an elevator in New York City.
It's
Again, we've
yeah,
seen
yeah,
it.
yeah. And one of those people is the devil. Did you ever see that movie? What's it called? The Devil? I think it's
No.
called The Devil. There's like the tagline is something like
Oh.
12 people stuck in an elevator. One of them is the devil.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Spoiler
haven't
alert.
seen it either. Well, I don't know which one. I don't know which one. It turns out the elevator was going to hell and they're all the devil. No, so oh Leah Michelle. So I can't really comment on her. I don't really know. I must have seen her in something, but like I haven't really seen much TV, so I obviously haven't seen like Gossip Girl or anything. I kind of just know her from the memes and being illiterate. That's my main
Yeah.
connection.
Well, she's famous from
And
Glee, of
yeah,
course, and has done stunts in Broadway
Yeah.
and whatnot, and was famously attached to Corey Monteith, who passed away, who was her
Oh,
co-star in
yeah.
Beyonce. So I don't know. It's nothing against her. It's just that again, like I don't see a lot of range from
No, for
her,
sure.
and she kind of always sells the same
Yeah.
story. Like it's actually really funny because she's on Broadway right now for Funny
Yeah.
Girl.
Mhm.
And in Glee, her character was obsessed with being on Broadway as
Wow,
Funny
because that
Girl,
was the whole Beanie
just
Feldstein
living
drama,
her own
wasn't it?
life.
Of people saying like she can't sing,
Yeah,
and now they're like Leah can't act,
yeah.
but together,
To Leah Michelle's credit, she should have been on Funny Girl
welcome to
from the beginning.
Streisand
Not
cast, where we're
yeah,
um, yeah,
but yeah. So it's a very I don't know. This whole film is very typical.
yeah.
That word I wrote like 7 times, 8 times, but that's fine. But what I don't understand, they never get into the part of why. I mean, they kind of do, but why Ashton Kutcher is so cranky about New Year's Eve. They said that it was a love situation, that his heart got broken or whatever, but what does that have to do with New Year's
It's
Eve?
like it's so rushed over. I'm trying to find where my note was because I was like, Ashton Kutcher is me. I know you said that you didn't. I know you said that you didn't like him in this film, and I agree. He wasn't as likable as he was in Valentine's Day.
Didn't
But
not like
yeah,
him, but he was just not
the curmudgeon
like Jimmy Kelso, you know?
the curmudgeon of like, oh, like it's enforced fun, like I don't like New Year's Eve. Where is oh, I have the quote written down. He's complaining.
Why this holiday? Like, why don't you hate Christmas? Why don't you hate Valentine's Day? Because you were someone else in that film. Why New
Yeah,
Year's?
yeah, yeah. Because he's like a curmudgeon who's like, I hate it. Just like, and the reason I don't hate it. I'm just not a huge fan of New Year's in that like, growing up when I was a young man, we would always go to parties or wherever, and it would just take like forever to get home. And like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much pressure on New Year to have like a fun time, and then when your evening ends in like a 5 hour queue for a cab. I'm like getting the year off to
Yeah.
a bad start. So I'm a bit of a New Year's curmudgeon, which is why was really excited to do it in Times Square because I was like, if I can just do the best New Year's on paper and not love that, then that's fine. I can let myself off for not going wild with New Year's. And I'll just, you know what? I'll go to a party if it's within walking distance. I'll just, but we don't need to go wild. So I just related a lot to him.
Hey, that's better than me. We pre-COVID, when I was
Yeah.
single, for sure I would always go
Yeah.
out. But since COVID and being
Yeah.
engaged and whatnot, we are home
Those are
every
the
year.
best ones.
I
Those are
would
the best
I
ones.
love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I love
You,
it. It's nice to see other people, but I was at a party last night and my social battery was burned out.
yeah,
Like it's just nice to be in your home, watch the ball drop,
absolutely. Yeah,
be with your
yeah,
loved ones. There's no lesson
yeah.
for everyone. There's no obligation to have this magical New Year's Eve New York thing.
Do
Just do
you?
what you
Yeah,
love with who you love.
exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Great summation of what we should all be doing there.
Yeah.
But Ashton isn't quite reached that kind of zen because he says,
Well, he wanted to stay home, so
yeah,
good on
exactly.
him.
Yeah, yeah. Because he's wearing like sweatpants, isn't he? I can't remember. He's going to take out the trash or something, and he gets trapped in the elevator.
Yeah.
And
And he gets a call from Zac
yeah,
Efron, who's his roommate,
uh-huh.
pressuring him to
Yeah.
come out with him tonight. Look, I love Zac
Uh-huh.
Efron, but don't go pressuring your friends to go out if they don't want to.
Is there, I guess there's not a huge age gap between, is there like 5 years, 10 years between the two of them? Not that like,
Well, their characters are in human world,
yeah,
in real life.
yeah, they read as like close enough on camera and not like you can't end up in a weird house situation with someone, but it's like they wouldn't have been at college together because Ashton Kutcher is like at least 5 years older than Zac Efron, I would
Well,
say.
let's see. Zac Efron is 36
And Kutcher must
now.
be he's in his 40s for sure. He'd be like at least 43 maybe.
Butcher is
Yeah, there we
45,
go. So, okay. But
but he could
yeah,
play
he's just
younger.
eternal frat boy. So like it doesn't not
Yeah.
work. But Kutcher's like he's like, I hate New Year because he's like, people who don't drink or go nuts all year suddenly go all Kanye on you. And I was like, eesh, this
I
movie has
agree.
aged because going all Kanye had different connotations in 2011 to what it has now.
Very
But
true.
yeah, so
But I do agree that people change for the
me and you,
holiday.
we're just party animals 365, Marnie. We're drinking and going nuts all year, and all
Except for New
these
Year's.
newcomers, all these lightweights who are like, "Hey, excuse me, we are the hardcore fans." Um,
Coming from two people who, like,
if
literally
you
don't drink,
if you
but
can't
anyway.
handle me at my getting drunk on December the 14th, then you don't deserve me at my
Yeah,
December the yeah. If you can't handle me getting
31st.
drunk at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday in the middle of April, then you don't deserve to be getting drunk on. um, so yeah, that storyline is introduced, and then we get Zac Efron, who we've discussed. He is the roommate of Kelso, Steve
Ashton
Jobs,
Kutcher.
Ashton, and he is a like Uber Eats Deliveroo driver. He's like a
Yeah, he's a
yeah,
courier.
great, thank you. I was searching for that word. I was like, he's more versatile than just food.
Yes. Uber Eats wasn't a thing, but back then.
He invented Uber Eats. That's what you don't find
Yes.
out, that him and Kutcher go off and they're like
Invent
become
Uber
Silicon
Eats.
Valley Bros.
And this is where Michelle Pfeiffer is also introduced,
Yeah.
which I have a lot of notes on this storyline, which they called, let me tell you, the resolution tour.
Okay. So the first scene for that is she is in an office. What does her boss do? Her boss is played by John Lithgow, and she's just like an
Yeah.
executive assistant or whatever, isn't she?
I think so. They don't really determine her, but you do see her a little bit earlier. She falls in a pile of
Oh, of
garbage.
course.
She's
Yeah.
upset with people trying to help her. So they're really trying to set up her character of,
She
I don't know,
never, yeah,
cranky or
things just never go off for her. She's eternally unlucky, whatever. She never catches a break,
socially
kind of. Yeah,
awkward.
exactly. Yeah. Which Michelle
Yeah.
Pfeiffer, I don't know.
It was an odd role for
Yeah, she isn't
her.
the first person I would think of for that. And yeah, like I guess one of the things I think about most for her, Kyle always brings up, is Catwoman in Batman Returns. And I guess she is kind of that in the opening where she before she becomes Catwoman, when they're like, she's got frizzy hair and she's a cat lady, and then she becomes like she straightens her hair and puts on latex. And but yeah, it was kind of odd because she has an interaction with John Lithgow of like, oh, like we're here for like my bonus and my vacation days. And he's like, oh, well, you might want to adjust your expectations because this bonus, well, will get you to Staten Island. But, and she's kind of upset because she had big plans because she was like, I'm overworked and I don't get a lot of vacation days and I had plans for this. And so she just kind of quits. And
Which
John,
seemed quite spontaneous for her because
yeah,
I think the way that they set up her character was very much like anxious,
yeah.
fire
Inhibited, doesn't
concerned.
not impulsive, would never, yeah, doesn't rush into things, kind of
Yeah.
very, yeah,
Lets people walk all over her.
exactly, yeah. Because and then John Lithgow is like almost can't handle it, I think, because his last thing he says to her is he's like, "Don't forget the sugar," and then we see him playing Angry Birds on his iPad. He's like, "Come on, 3 stars! I need 3 stars!" And I was like, "That's another amazing time capsule of this movie just being so 2011." Is a
Yeah.
man playing Angry Birds on an iPad.
They definitely show the year throughout this film.
Yeah. So then my next note is about the couple getting married. So this is Josh Duhamel, and this storyline is entitled.
Oh, that
This is the
one
party one, I think, isn't it?
yeah, that one is called A Hearn Party.
Okay, nice. And so you start off just with like a couple getting married, and then they say I do. The officiant says you may give kisses to the missus, which
Oh, that
I
was
laughed at.
cringy.
Exactly. I was like, okay, this marriage probably not set for success if this is how it's starting. But I thought what they were setting up was this will mean nothing to you if you haven't seen it, but I guess you'll know the Love Actually storyline where Andrew Lincoln is the best friend who's been in love with the wife the whole time. I thought they were setting up like he's actually meant to be with the bride because there's no one there at this wedding, and the couple are like, we wanted to save money for the honeymoon, and the guy on the organ is immediately like, huh? Guess I'm not getting paid, and just stops. And so they speak up to Josh
Which, by
Duhamel.
the way, as someone who is planning her wedding,
Yeah.
that would never fly. You can't have somebody there and not pay them.
Yeah.
Realism. Anyway,
Yeah, you can actually, Marni. It's just this one specific guy who's always falling for it. If you can get this guy, he's like, oh,
I
I know I
guess.
should get something agreed in advance, but oh well. Sorry, kids, you're not getting fed again this week.
Sorry, kids.
I fell for it
No
again. Got
presents this
tricked again.
year.
So they are then
Guess I'm giving up my career as a church organist.
my mother wanted me to be a doctor, but I said no. Um, so the groom is a new kid on the block. Did you?
He is?
Yeah, he's a new kid on the block.
I did not know
What is
that.
his name? I'll just find you him in the cast list. I'm sure he's credited as like groom Tom. Where are we? Oh yeah. So Joel McIntyre, he's best known as the youngest member of the pioneering boy band New Kids on the Block, which
Wasn't really a massive New Kids on the Block
yeah.
fan, so I wouldn't have known that. But if you threw a Backstreet Boy in there, I would have known
Well,
that.
this is another mounting evidence for Kyle would have loved this film because Kyle loves Donnie
Yeah.
Wahlberg, who is another new kid on the block. So that
On
connection,
Kyle.
he's really missing out. We will have to get him to rewatch this segment on the podcast, which will never arrive. Kyle gives his thoughts on New Year's Eve. So
When I come to visit, we'll just like sit him down, keep him back to the chair, and say, "You're watching New Year's Eve."
yeah, Clockwork Orange style eyes
Yeah.
propped open. So they are then. Sorry, do you want to?
Oh no, what I was gonna say, what's interesting about this scene is so they get married, and the only person there is Josh
Yeah,
Jamal. And they were saying they were saving money. And when I was watching this, I was like,
that's
oh, and
not
they
up.
sorry, they continued to talk about how, oh, saying to Josh Jamal, like, you're the last one, you're the last one, you gotta find a
Yeah.
girl. So I was like, are married people not invited to this wedding? It's only the last single
Yeah,
guy? Like,
yeah.
is that how you're saving money? I don't
We
really
can't afford a plus one. So, yeah,
know.
I love that. Of like, it just makes no sense that they're saving money. They're not doing like a city hall thing. They're like, the venue is like,
Still have to pay the
yeah, exactly.
church.
Yeah, it's like a nice venue. It's not like a backyard wedding. It's yeah, these people's accounting really not up to. I want a post-credit scene where they're on the honeymoon and you just see they're in Vegas or something. They're putting like
Yeah.
$25,000 on black and are like, lost it all. I guess we're never having a child. So there
Yeah.
goes our baby budget.
Oh my god. No, it's a very unnecessary scene,
Yeah,
but it does the whole purpose of it is just to try and get it like Josh Jamal has two parts to this story.
hmm,
Get a girl, some girl that he talks about from New Year's Eve
yeah,
last
mystery
year,
girl.
and say a speech at the party. That's his only role in this film. Say a speech, which by the way, when we get to the speech, heavily
Yeah.
underwhelming, and get the girl.
Yeah. So
Very rom-com style.
that scene is really weird because they leave the church and so they have people throwing like confetti at them. And it's almost like the bride leaves side by side with Josh Duhamel.
He was holding
I
her
know
hand,
it's
and
so
I was like,
weird because
"What is happening? Why would you grab her
he kind of
hand
plays it
if
off as
you're
like no, it's him. But I'm like they're not in the wrong. It's not a mistaken identity of like you're the first two out and you're holding her hand, so obviously they're gonna think
so
that the
weird?"
couple um, it's just like him kissing her like
Yeah,
on the like at the I don't know what the part of the church is called, like at the altar or whatever, and then just be like people cheering and taking photos. He's like, "Oh, I'm not the groom. I don't know what gave you the idea I was the groom, but um, because like the husband, just beta husband trailing behind, being like, "Oh, there's my wife off with Josh Duhamel," and then
Yeah.
he's like, "It's the two of them," and then he leaves, and so this is a really weird scene. So like he leaves in a car, and like you watched a different copy to me, so I don't know. I was like, "Is this something with the copy I sent?" But you see, he gets in like he gets in like a regular car and then it cuts to the
They
like,
left at the same time.
oh,
I knew you were gonna get confused around this because it does look
my
weird.
note was, am I an idiot or
Because from what I see, they drive the just married car drives off to the
yeah,
right, and his silver
yeah,
car, I don't know what kind of car, it was, drives off to the left, and they all walked out of the church at the same time. So I think it's just they didn't film the bride and groom getting into their
yeah.
car. They just made it look really awkward, but they both zoomed off was the
Yeah,
point.
because they just kind of jump cut from like one shot of exact same car, like silver car drives off, and then they jump cut to the exact same shot and framing, like match cut to the car with like the bridal car with all the cans and the stuff. And I was like, has that?
I do remember when I saw this film the first time, I thought to myself, did he get
Yeah,
in the just married car? Like,
yeah.
what
I was like, did
an
it
idiot.
transform? Like, what's going on here? And I was like, you would have like a wide shot with the two cars, if that's what you want to convey. You have a wide shot with the two cars and you have them leaving side by side, and maybe one goes left, one goes right. But
Yeah, that would have been a way smarter shot, or watching them get
yeah,
into the
exactly.
car
Just a
and
little
then that.
something to like space up, not car leaves and then exact same shot
They were
of
saving
yeah.
$25,000. We had to cut it somewhere, just in their
Because I
scenes.
just I was like, did this copy skip? Is there a scene where he accidentally gets in their car and drives off and then goes back and has to
Yeah,
thank you for explaining that once again.
yeah.
I am an idiot. Okay.
You're not. It was very
Yeah.
confusing, and I remember it being confusing the first time I watched it, and then when I watched it today, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I think Jericho might get confused
Taking
about this
notes. I'm like,
also.
so Jericho,
Want to
yeah.
tell Jericho what happened.
Cuts in movies can leap forward in time. So I know you're thinking this takes place 5 seconds later, but it actually takes place the next day because movies do not take place in real time. So might be confused, but this person dies in the movie. They don't die in real life, Jericho. The actor is still alive. Okay, my next note is Jensen. I misread this and I thought the sign said Jepsen, and I was like, Carly Rae Jepsen didn't play Times Square in 2011, but if you're going to invent this, I'm on board. But Jensen. So Jensen is the musical act, and he is in what storyline is this?
Oh, this one is called Jensen and
Okay,
Laura
makes sense, makes sense.
with Katherine Heigl and John Bon Jovi.
Yeah. So I didn't know who Jensen was. I was like,
I didn't either. I
yeah, I
had to
had to look
Google
it
it.
up because like there are all these people. It's not like a huge amount. It's like a reasonable amount of extras. So it's like, well, we've got 12 people who are going wild with like signs, and then so you just see the fans first, and I was like building up expectations, and then they cut to him in the car like getting ready to go out, and I was like, he is not the right age for the fan base that he has because all of his fans are kind of like young teen girls. And I was like,
Yeah. It does change throughout the film. Like you
yeah,
see, so Katherine Heigl plays the head chef of some catering company that she
yeah.
owns, and Sofia Vergara is her sous chef. Which my note for Sofia Vergara is, I don't care how typical her role is, she is hilarious. I literally wrote down quotes that she said throughout the film where I was laughing out loud. Sofia Vergara is just a gem of Hollywood. I don't care what anyone has to say. She always does her role
Yeah,
well. But Sofia Vergara is a fan of this Jensen guy, and you can see throughout the film that the people at this party, which is not the same
yeah.
storyline, but it happens at the same storyline of the Arham, I don't even know, party. that they're all fans of him. So clearly
He appeals to
he's
all
I mean,
ages, but I was like, if you have a John Bon
I'm
Jovi,
I'm a fan of older, like my favorite music comes from the 70s and 80s.
yeah.
Like you don't have to be.
Yeah, yeah, but even still, you go to those things and you're kind of aware, like, oh, I'm out with the main demographic here. Like, there's lots of older people. So
Yeah.
I just think a Bon Jovi crowd would be a lot of middle-aged women who liked him in his prime, along with
But it's
teenage
not Bon
girls who are
Jovi.
like, um,
Jensen.
and
Whatever the fuck
I'm
that
just
is.
saying, based on the crowd, I was expecting Bieber because that's who actually played Times Square in 2011.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Okay.
I saw the Biebs along with
Babes. Canadian gem, apparently.
along with CeeLo
Not
Green.
my fan.
That was
Oh,
the infamous occasion. CeeLo Green did a cover of Imagine and changed the lyrics to "And all religion is true." People were like kind of defeating the purpose of the song. Imagine lots of possessions.
oh my God, that's awkward.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a sign that says the Irish eyes are on Jensen. So I was also like, is he Irish? But anyway, my next line is a Sofia Vergara quote. So right back to what you said. Because she's talking to Catherine Heigl and she's
Yeah.
speaking about like Mystery Man, whatever, X. And then when Sofia Vergara oh, Sophia, it's like she asks her like, "Are you psychotic?" And it's meant to be psychic.
Oh, I have those. I wrote that one down. I wrote the other guy says, Mr. Jensen, I play piano, and Sophia says, I just
Yeah,
play.
yeah, yeah.
And then also where she goes, I wrote, I love her facial expressions, and then I said, celebrities, they're just like us.
Well, I have one more quote from her.
She has the best lines of the whole film. I wrote all the side characters are the funniest ones. The
Yeah,
main characters are not.
100%. I have essentially that note too. So later on, when Jensen and Katherine Heigl have their reunion, she like because you find out that like he stood her up or he had like commitment issues, which basically involved him running out on her.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
engaged, and
there
then
we
he
go.
left.
Yeah, and she slaps him, and Sofia Vergara and like other guy catch that, and he's like, "Oh, we're just fooling around." And Sofia Vergara, in an incredibly sexually charged delivery, says, "Ooh, I like fooling around too." So I was like,
It was so good.
we're gonna get some like Sofia Vergara invites him back to the red room and slaps him in the face at the end of this.
Oh my God. No, she's so good in
Yeah.
this. So great.
Okay, my next note is Lieutenant Ludacris. So going back to the Biebs, man who had just starred with his verse in Baby, Ludacris is in this as a police officer. So he's kind of involved in the Hilary Swank storyline.
Yes. Which is called the Times Square
Oh,
storyline.
makes
No,
sense.
no stop
Makes
there.
sense.
It's actually really funny because I blanked on her name when I was watching it, and my fiance came out and I said, "What's her
Yeah.
name?" And he goes, "I don't know if you watch The Office, the American
Yeah.
Office, and have this reference, but there's an episode where they spend so long deciding if Hilary Swank is hot or
Yeah,
sexy, I
yeah.
think it was. And so I said to Darren, "Who is this?" And he goes, she's hot." And I was like, "Oh, Hilary Swank."
Amazing.
So shout out to The Office for making sure I know my
Yeah, guys,
references.
if you haven't heard this little known show called The Office, then we would definitely recommend checking it out.
We love
Could
The
do with your
Office.
support. Okay, so
Ludacris did good in this role, I feel. I've only ever seen him else in the Fast films, and
yeah.
I enjoy
Yeah,
him.
I think he's decent. I don't
Good.
I've seen him in stuff. I haven't seen any of the Fast films, but he's cropped up in stuff that I've watched for sure. And yeah, I think he's definitely in the top 50% of musician turned actors. I think he's perfectly fine. He doesn't have a lot to do, but he's believable as a cop. You wouldn't look at him
Yeah,
and be like, that man isn't an actor. You would just think like, oh, he's just
yeah.
like a regular. Yeah.
And they have some underlying, like, clearly they have a relationship. They're friends.
Yeah.
They work together. And there's something that they keep bringing up that is so obviously going to lead to a different part of the story, and that person is her confidant at
Yeah.
work. So it's a nice moment, but it doesn't like he doesn't bring a lot to the
Mm,
table. He's a good actor. We enjoy him. Doesn't bring a lot.
yeah, is this the scene where you find out that Hilary Swank is scared of heights? Because I think they're going up to check out the ball,
Maybe.
and she's like, ooh, ooh," and Ludacris is like, It's okay, I got you," and just like slings her over a shoulder and carries her up. And granted, I think the movie plays it this way, but I was like, that would be so much worse, you would think, of being like completely
Yeah.
uncontrolled. And what if he drops me? You think just somewhere where you could hold on to like a fixed rail would be, but it's kind
Yeah.
of played as like he's
And
a
why were they all on the stairs when that happened? Like, why weren't they all just up where she's gonna give the press?
exactly. It's such a weird scene in a movie filled with
So
weird scenes.
there are some very unnecessary scenes. The wedding scene was one, and this is another one that it's like they emphasize throughout the film that Hilary Swank is afraid of heights,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really it's not they emphasize it a lot actually, and it's not something that has a major resolution at the end.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's just like a weird little quirk to begin with, and then you would think it would be something she'd have to overcome or like
Yeah.
confront, or would it'd be involved in the end, but it's just kind of there. My next note, jump cuts in the Hello Secrets. I think,
What?
yeah, I don't know. Hello Secrets is almost certainly all corrected, and like, is this scenes? Anyway, there's some weird there's some weird filmmaking stuff going on here, but alas, we'll need to pick that up when we watch it with Kyle because I have no idea what I was talking about.
So I have a note that says the teenage scene where all the kids are the girls are sitting at one table and the guys are
Yeah,
walking. I was like, the too hot for school scene, whatever, is so
yeah,
cringy. The
yeah,
whole teenage stuff that happens in this film just cringes me out. And I try and think back to when I was
yeah.
15. Don't think, and you can, I don't know if you did as well. I just don't think we acted like that. Like it was very
Well, I was terminally
Americanized,
uncool, so yeah.
awkward.
But yeah, yeah, you're
Same,
right.
but
It was real weird. So just to establish these actors, Nat Wolff is the cool teen hunk, and then Abigail
JT
Breslin
Austin.
is the
No, it's JT Austin, not Nat Wolff.
huh? Is
It's JT
is it?
Austin.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I thought
And Abigail Breslin,
okay.
which her storyline is called the mother-daughter storyline with Sarah Jessica
Okay,
Parker.
perfect. Easy to remember name.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like she just has a crush on him and she wants to go to a party to kiss him. And her mom is like, "No, you are not going to a party." And like this was the real written by like a middle-aged, I'd have guessed man, but like this whole movie was written by a woman, but like I guess, I don't know, maybe Gary Marshall came up with it on the day. Abigail Breslin, to make her point, flashes her mother and says, "This is not a training bra." And Carrie,
Sarah Jessica
and like,
Parker says, "This is not Girls Gone
yeah,
Wild."
exactly. Which, like, I don't know, like, that's a way to prove to your mom that you're mature enough to go to a party, I guess. It's,
Yeah. I mean, this storyline is interesting as well. Another role that I felt was very typical for Sarah Jessica Parker into fashion, which
yeah,
is Carrie
yeah,
Bradshaw of her. Um, and very, she has her little quirks, her little giggles and
yeah.
whatever. It was very, SJP. Another storyline that I found boring. I love Sarah Jessica Parker, so that was like interesting. Her husband makes a cameo in the film,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, but it was it necessary? I mean, is any of this necessary? But
Like, I'm trying to think what the like, I don't know, you think like high school storylines are easy to write. Like Valentine's
but this
Day
wasn't
was,
well
yeah,
done.
no, this one sucked. Valentine's Day was the kid in his class who wanted to like,
Yeah, that was the
yeah, that
best.
was way
Franklin, we
yeah, of
love Frank.
course. Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah.
Even Kyle loves Franklin, so
That's how we get him. Kyle, you should need to watch New Year's Eve. Franklin's in this.
Franklin's in it.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Maybe we watched the wrong cut. I swear he was in it when we
Yeah, we must
watched it.
have.
Yeah, the teen storyline in this just like there's no like I guess I was closer to being a teenager in 2011 and you were a teenager in 2011. So like it's not now where I'm like young people scare me. I have no idea what they're on about. They're all on TikTok doing things and it's a frightening alien world to me. It's like it's easy enough to like I don't know, it just bears no semblance to actual kids, teenagers, young people. So yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not, I definitely agree with
yeah,
you. I think it kind of sells a story that teenagers have to be kissing at
yeah,
midnight, which I don't
yeah.
agree with. Maybe that's something I feel as an adult, not a
Yeah.
teenager, but,
You're
um
the Sarah Jessica Parker being like, listen, you will not be kissing anyone until you are. Yeah.
it's not that,
No,
it's
no, I
not
know. It's
that.
just like
I mean, I had a boyfriend when I was 15, but
they're just not
it's
believable.
more
It's just like the fact that the only two characters are them and you don't get like there's no alternate perspectives. They are just there. Like you get one young person perspective, which is like and we don't really learn anything about her. I guess like maybe because this is written by like I'm assuming a middle-aged woman, she might have been like in her 20s when she wrote it. She could have been some prodigy. But like because it's written by a woman who I'm gonna assume is closer to the Sarah Jessica Parker perspective, we don't really get the like the girl doesn't really have like a journey of like her thoughts and what are important.
yeah. I think all these stories have to be cut so short because they're trying to pump them all together at the same time. But there's definitely being the year that it
Yeah.
was, things that wouldn't happen now, and lots of stereotypical roles that people fall
Yeah.
into, gender norms, etc., that just don't work
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And that's where we're coming from with this, I think.
Yeah. So as you said, not enough time to tackle weighty subject matter, which is why we get a dying Robert De Niro.
Oh, I literally wrote, so sad to see Robert De Niro in a sick role.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah. So have you seen Magnolia?
No.
So Magnolia, one of my favorite films by one of my favorite directors, and Jason Robards plays the father figure in that who is dying in hospital, and it's very similar to this. And I was like, oh my God, they're doing Magnolia. And Magnolia is also like interlocking stories like this. It's like an anthology. And I was like, there's going to be like, there's a really good scene in Magnolia where all the characters burst into song. And I was like, oh my God, they're all going to sing Wise Up like Amy Mann. And so that was my prediction, which actually kind of comes true. Like when Leah Michelle sings
Yeah.
her song, they then cut to Robert De Niro in the hospital. So I was like, oh my God, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as this film. But Robert De Niro, they speak to him about like I can't remember. I have like I don't know again how it's instigated of like it's not someone being like, Robert, why are you here? This hospital is a shithole hospital. Do you not want to go private or something? But they ask him like somehow the reason why he is in this hospital of all hospitals come up. And I was waiting for him to be like, did I tell you why I picked this hospital? I want to be reincarnated as the first baby born in the new year. I think if I'm close, I got better odds. But he reveals that he's dying and he wants to see the ball drop one last time. And so this hospital has got like the view of Times Square.
Best.
So that is Bobby D, which yeah, it is sad to see him like frail and not like a perverted grandfather. But
And this storyline is called Hospital Story. No shock there. With Robert De Niro, and of course, the beautiful Halle Berry, who again had a very underwhelming role. She's good at everything she does. We love her, but she
Yeah,
played a nurse.
so I noted her down.
Watched her sleep more than you watched her do anything
Yeah,
else.
I noted her down as Nurse Catwoman because I couldn't be bothered
Yeah,
to memorize her name. So we get two Catwomen in this movie. All we need is Anne Hathaway for the full set, and in fact, she's in Valentine's Day. So there we go.
there you go.
But Halle Berry was originally cast to play the Katherine Heigl role, and she dropped out due to a custody
Oh.
battle with her ex-partner, and it was resolved in time for her to be recast in the movie, but in a smaller role. So that's why we get her in that. Yeah, you're right. It's a nothing role, but she does get to deliver the line, "You are dangerously close to a rectal exam," which not a threat nurses make, as far as I'm aware. Okay, this next one may be my favorite character in the film, Sassy Toe Man.
The
The
one.
Sassy Toe
Oh
Man.
my god.
So Josh Duhamel's car breaks down and he phones like a tow guy to come and fix it. And the tow guy is bald and he's incredibly sassy and just immediately gives him a ton of attitude. He's like, "Hey, like, can you fix my car?" And he's like, "Well, it's not called a fixed truck." Um, and
Oh,
um, he just has like all these little one-liners for him. And then at the end, Josh Duhamel is like, "Listen, I really need to get back into the city because I've got something important going on." And then Sassy Toolman,
I have a speech to give.
yeah, exactly. I have mystery woman to potentially meet up with. And then Sassy Toolman says, I need to find a new name because Toolman it makes me think now of like foot toe. Sassy Mechanic Man is like, "Well, I've got something."
Tow truck guy, like,
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino in the role of Sassy Toolman says,
yeah.
"I've got something important too tonight, pal. Me and my girl are gonna crush a 12 pack and watch porn."
Oh my god. I laughed so hard when he said that. I was just like, everybody's got their own New Year's
Yes.
plans, I guess, but
Yeah, yeah. That like that surprised me because I was like, okay, the way you were playing this role, just in broadest stroke stereotypes, girlfriend surprised me because I was like, I think you were when you're just kind of like, like when he's like a little bit camp and just with his talk back, I was like, okay, this wasn't what I was expecting. I'm watching porn with your partner. Again, in how you fix this film, I would just include little snippets of all the other characters at the end, and we see him queuing up with his like I don't know,
oh my god.
maybe it's like a Lars and the Real Girl. You find out like his girlfriend is a doll, and he's like putting on. Um,
He's a blow up doll. Honestly, there were a couple moments, and this being one of them, where I was like, what's this movie rated?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I just want to get you this guy's name. What was he?
He was in, I think he was in one of those other films, but I recognize him from Princess Diaries.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, he's apparently in a bunch of Gary Marshall's other.
I think he was in Valentine's Day.
Yeah, where is he? I had him a second ago. Um, where's the guy's name? He had like he was called he had some like Harley was his name or some bike, some grease monkey kind of name.
Well, all I know is he plays Paulo the hairdresser in Princess Diaries.
Larry Miller is the actor's name, and he did in fact play Harley. And he comes back later on with another line which I loved, where he says, like, you find out that he's the brother, I think, of the pastor or something.
Yeah, related to the
Yeah.
pastor. So that brings us back to the
And he
church.
has this zinger of he's just struggling to deal with Josh Duhamel's outrageous demands, and he goes like, "Oh, I never understand people with hair,"
I didn't hear that line.
which I'm like,
That's funny.
okay, so that's 95% of all women. um, it's just like I don't know, great line, very weird
So he
character.
has a bald girlfriend at home.
Yeah, exactly. She has alopecia.
Yeah.
So my next line is Zac Efron is a gigolo because Michelle Pfeiffer.
Okay, let's talk about this Zac Efron
Yeah,
storyline. Resolution tour, we're back to
yeah,
it. I actually wrote, well, first of all, I am a massive Zac Efron
yeah.
fan. I have met him in
Wow, how
person.
is he?
He was beautiful. We loved him. I was 13. It was
Yeah,
great. Highlight of
yeah.
my life. And again, he plays a very typical role for himself. But what I found interesting about this storyline is that I know that it was supposed to portray Michelle Pfeiffer and Zac Efron to be this sort of friendly, help her through her situation kind of random thing. But it had this odd May December vibe that was super cringy.
Yeah, yeah, like, I don't know. I couldn't identify why that was because I was like, is this in casting Michelle Pfeiffer, who's like kind of like a sex symbol? I was like, is it an issue that I was like, she either needs to be like I don't know. You could for sure do this as like a romantic storyline. If she's younger and the story is just about women who never takes risks, women who has like big high
But
paying
that's
Wall
the whole
Street.
point of May December, though, is that there's one person who's older and one person who's younger,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
in this love story,
I
but
just think tackling it in this
it was an
super short
awkward.
format doesn't work. And I was like, she either needs to
Yeah,
be like either you could do it as like a peer of like it's easy to have like a high strung
yeah.
like she's Jennifer Aniston, he's Matthew McConaughey. He needs to learn how to put on a tie and she needs to learn how to play bongos on the beach.
That movie has been done with Sarah Jessica
It's
Parker and
called
Matthew
Failure to
McConaughey. It was
Launch.
called
Yeah.
Failure to Launch.
You could do it that way of like she's like a Wall Street executive and he's like an Uber
Yeah,
driver.
there's lots of ways to do it.
Or you could do it where like she's just not like doesn't have the chemistry and the energy that it has, but it was super weird and I
But it was weird to do the May December part of it.
yeah.
Like that was the part that made it weird. I do have to say though, and I wrote this in my notes, was the creativity of the things like the Bali thing. That was so cool.
Yeah.
And New York is known to have these amazing underground kind of things you would never see. When she was walking through the boroughs
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the miniature city, like all the things that he took her to do were even at where did she go? Music music hall, was that?
Radio City Music Hall. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All very, very cool things that I would love to do in general, but would I love to do them with Zac Efron?
In
100%.
one single night when most things are closed. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
He
amazing.
has connections as a courier.
Yeah. We should probably talk about that storyline because it's like it's so weird where like she has this bucket list of things that she wants to do and she makes a deal with Zac Efron being like, "Hey, I will give you these passes to what what even is it?"
It was the
Like
party that Josh Duhamel was going to.
yeah, yeah, it's just like the VIP pass to like
Party of the
some
year.
party, yeah.
Yeah.
And
At a
she's
music record label, where
yeah.
he used to work.
Oh, of course, yeah. John Lithgow's going to be there. You might get to play Angry Birds on his iPad if you're lucky. Yeah,
No,
and
he's not. She stole his ticket.
let me in. My iPad's locked in my drawer. Yeah, so she offers him like four tickets, isn't it? And he's like, "Oh my God!" And he phones up his buddy Ashton Kutcher later on, and that's how you find out the connection. But I was like, these tickets must be like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know, maybe this is just the difference between being in your 20s and being in your 30s, but I was like, this party would have to be the party of all parties. Like, I don't know what you would have to do before. I was like, the lengths that he goes to, I was like, if she was offering me $1 million, I doubt I would put as much of my ass into it as Zac Efron does. But he busts a gut for something which I'm like, this is like a party. This will be over in in one day. But like, because the her bucket list is impossible. It's like go to Bali, do all these stuff that like she's like, if you can help me cross all of this off in what, like 8
4 hours.
hours? Yeah, exactly. Then I will give you these tickets. And I would be like, no deal, lady. And Zach, when he's on the phone, he kind of says like, "Oh, she's crazy," and like whatever. Like he kind of alludes
Just
to
so mean.
yeah, that scene was sad because
Yeah.
he like as you said he has like inventive ways of picking them off. So the first thing on her list is go to Bali. And if I was Zac Efron, I would probably be like, okay, maybe let's start with like eat a pretzel from a hot dog vendor or something. Let's build up to Bali. Let's notch a few easy wins, get some momentum, and then but straight off he takes her to some Bali themed like bar, hotel, and like it's got a pool and like floating island, whatever. It's really cool, as you said, like one of these New York places. And she is like satisfied. In another version of this film, she's a horrible character who at the end is like, "Well, you didn't actually take me to Bali. You could have taken me to the Bali embassy. I would have counted that as being
Yeah, that's creative.
but no, sorry. In my
Erica's
version,
version of this story.
you know who I would have
Let's
her
go to
as?
New York and see if we can knock these off.
Yeah. Tilda Swinton might play her in my one because Tilda Swinton you can see being a little more mean of just like, well, I'm sorry, but technically fail.
Yeah,
And so
grading F.
yeah, exactly. No tickets for you. And so one of the other things on her list to do in like 4 hours was she wants to walk all five boroughs. and and Zach,
I have to say though, like I know this is so funny because usually I'm the one who's pointing out the realism, and you're on this train today.
yeah.
But I have to just keep going back, and it's a movie. Okay, this
Yeah.
will never happen, but it's so inventive.
Yeah,
Like
no, exactly.
it's incredible, and Zac Efron actually does a lot of these kind of films where I mean, he's always a hero in these films, and he's like
The charming guy who's
creative and
like, yeah,
inventive, and I'm like,
yeah,
is he in real life? Because
yeah.
let's hang out.
I'd walk all five boroughs with you, Zach. In
I
fact,
love
no,
all
I don't
five
want to do
boroughs.
the museum. I want to do the one that will take us like 3 weeks to do.
Yeah.
No,
Also, why has she never done this herself? If you live in New York, I know it's like the whole point. I don't do these things,
John
whatever.
Lithgow. John Lithgow. She started it and he was like, I need you to come to the office. My iPad's not charging. I'm
Yeah.
trying to play Flappy Bird and it's not downloading from the App Store. And these are the kinds of things you can only do when you're unemployed. So, like, the even arguably more inventive than the Bali one is like he takes her to it's not the Brooklyn Museum. He takes her to like a museum or whatever, and she walks like a to scale map of Manhattan and the five boroughs. So
Yeah,
uh,
that was so cool.
yeah, which I was like, again, as you identified, being a pedant, being like, okay, how would you get into here? Like,
Again,
but
I
you're
think
right.
it's
He
just
has
like,
connections. People he's
yeah,
referred to. Yeah,
he's a courier. He goes all around the
yeah,
city for his job. He's
yeah,
made connections with the
yeah,
low level staff like
yeah.
himself,
True.
like
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that is the story that they're trying to sell. The one thing I like about this storyline is that even though it's very simple and it's just purely about checking off resolutions, which is a big theme in
yeah.
New Year's, which is really cool. It's not boring.
No,
Like I
mm-mm.
would watch a full film of them doing that.
That's what I was gonna
Whereas
say.
Josh Duhamel's story, for example, super boring. Love him. Super
Yeah,
boring.
no, I just tuned out. By the time he was actually giving his speech, I was like, what's
Oh, I
this
didn't watch the
about?
speech.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
doing something else.
yeah. But Zac Efron, you're right, which is kind of the May December thing you said of like it's kind of most troubling in that this is the most romantic storyline of this is the one where like like I said, if they were the same age, you would be more rooting for them of like it's the most interesting and engaging storyline out of them all. And so the play Radio City Music Hall thing, I was just like I was like, what? Did she have on her bucket list? Like play Carnegie Hall, play Radio City Music Hall on her bucket list. I was like, Zac
No,
Efron's
that
really
one
going
was,
above and beyond. That was she wanted to be amazed.
yeah. Which, when I have to say for that one, the other things were more amazing. So wouldn't one of those just count? Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah,
did something
definitely.
on the list, but also it was
We're
amazing.
gonna get you in on Tilda Swinton, where they're just litigating with like, well, actually, no, sorry, I was not amazed because I'd already crossed that off as needs to be in the
That
small
was
print.
uncrossed
Yeah,
because of that.
exactly. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
disappointed. Thank
All
you.
of these were amazed, but I wanted to be just amazed. I was also
Yeah.
feeling like amazed and delighted or whatever. Yeah,
And was that
because
even amazing? You were swooping across the stage with New
okay,
York as the background, which you're already in New York.
I think the significance of the venue, I think, is like you're on Broadway and you're in the venue, like
That
it's
would
like
be
basically like you're Wicked or whatever. You're doing like
right.
I
I
think
would love
doing
that.
a Broadway show for one of like you're the star. I think because to go back, just while I was having like nostalgia for being there and looking at all the billboards, like, oh, there's Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows, there's the Tempest film with Russell Brand. There's Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, which I saw on Broadway, and I was like,
I
oh,
also saw Spider-Man on Broadway.
did you? We
Yes,
didn't talk about
in
this.
2013. No, we've never talked about this. I went to New
Amazing.
York in 2013 with my school,
Yeah.
and we saw Spider-Man, and I'm a massive Broadway fan,
Yeah.
so there
Wow.
were other film or other shows I would probably choose, but it
Yeah.
was very
Yeah, I'm was certainly then a massive U2 fan and was a massive Spider-Man fan, so I was like, amazing. I
it was
am in
amazing
my
being
element.
Spider-Man.
Yes, exactly. And Michelle Pfeiffer's bucket list was, I want to be in Spider-Man Turn Off the
Yeah,
Dark, and so Zach was like, well, we'll give it our best college try. Up you go.
yeah.
So my next note is, alas, I am not in this film, because they then cut back to the Times Square. I see everyone's wearing like Nivea hats, which say 2011. And so I was like if you, I think this is when they're testing the ball and it jams or whatever, or the ball fails to drop. And you see people in the crowd and they're wearing like promotional giveaway Nivea hats, which say 2011. And so I was like, okay, that's weird, because I was like, this movie came out in 2011. So I was like, to set it in the new years that passed, I was like, okay, I guess. But then you see people with 2012
Yeah,
glasses.
I was going
And so I
into
was like, yeah, exactly. And so I was like, oh no, wait, I am in this movie. This is set in my new year.
they didn't film it on New Year's Eve.
Movies are filmed in real time, aren't they, Marni? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do have to say though, although we did not get a cameo of Jericho, I thought of you when I saw this. There was a cameo that's been in every film of this franchise. Do you know who made a cameo?
Actor.
No. Oh yes, but no.
Um, wasn't Julia Roberts.
It's not a named person.
Uh,
It was the nuns.
there was a nun.
There
Where
were
was there a
two
nun? Where were the nuns?
in Times Square.
Oh
Nuns were
wow.
there.
No, I missed that.
And
I am gonna have to
we're
rewatch this
skipping
as
ahead a little
well.
bit. Oh, my computer's about
It's
to die,
like
but
me
we're
telling all my
skipping ahead a little bit, and there is a cameo from somebody in service. And this is something we see
true.
in service, meaning the military.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is something we've seen in every single film.
yeah.
And we've said this before with Kyle here, that these films tend to portray a lot of typical American things,
Yeah.
and supposedly the nuns are one of them, and film service is another. And the fact that they're picking very specific American country or cities to
Yeah.
do films in. I don't know if that's supposed to be like the American dream or something, but it's interesting.
Coming 2024, it's St. Patrick's Day, set in Boston, Massachusetts, starring Ben Affleck and Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, yeah, no, that is
So we
a
got to
it's
do Mardi Gras,
oh yeah, 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 that'd be good. I'd be on board for
New
that.
Orleans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it doesn't have the international audience, but it just blows my mind that a 4th of July movie was never made for this. But yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Very odd.
yeah. I guess Mother's Day, Mother's Day didn't make that much money, and Gary Marshall died, is probably the answer to why there weren't more of these.
Probably.
So
Also, how many times can you do these films? Like
yeah,
three is quite a
exactly.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, by Mother's Day, if we'd watched them in order, I'm sure we would be like, put this franchise
Turns
out of
out.
its misery.
Yeah.
Okay, someone who I liked, who basically amounts to a cameo, is Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah.
And because he's like, when they're having the ball problems, he comes out as the host of the New Year's event. And I
Did
like,
for many, many, many years.
yeah, I'm like, low key, he might be giving one of the better performances here. Of just like, you see him kind of putting his game face on, of he's like steeling himself to go out, kind of like, and then he goes out, and then they have the ball issues, and then he's backstage sitting in a chair or somewhere, and he's like, I'm starting to feel the pressure, and it messed with my hair. I need my hair to be up like the ball. It's like seeing Ryan Seacrest have this little freak out. I was like, on the basis of this cameo, you're not a bad actor.
No, it was very good. He mentions that as well, that Dick Clark, this
Yeah.
would never happen to him, which was a cute little
Yeah.
shout out to the people who have done it before him.
Yeah, when they said King of New Year, I was like, Dick Clark's gonna be here. But, yeah.
If only Anderson Cooper was in this.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes here. Hilary Swank gives a be nice speech, and
Yeah, that
like
was weird.
it's really weird because like that's when they're trying to fix the ball or whatever, and she gives some address to the whole of Times Square, and like people are watching on TV. De Niro's watching it, and she's like, the lesson of this evening and indeed life as a whole is just be nice, and people love it. I was like, listen, I've been to New Year's. People want to get drunk and they want to see CeeLo Green perform Imagine. They don't want to listen to Hilary Swank give a speech about being nice. I was like, that would not happen. If there were technical issues and some lady gave a big meandering stalling for time speech about kindness, I was like, particularly in New
Lose
York,
the
I was like, people would
crowd.
be throwing things. There would
Yeah,
be it
yeah.
wouldn't be, yeah.
There's we've said this now several times over the last few minutes of us talking, hour of us talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's places that just things that happen in this film that just don't
Yeah.
fit, don't make sense, don't add value.
Yeah.
It's great to be nice. We agree with the speech, but
Yeah, I'm not saying, yeah,
it's
it would be, I
misplaced.
would like to live in a world in which people would look at Hilary Swank and go, oh, that's nice. But in reality, and this might be coming from Scotland, people would be fighting and people would be as, as unkind as possible to be. Okay, my notes are I've kind of burnt out my notes here, so I have a couple left. Lisa Simpson is in this movie, just to throw that out for Kyle. Did you recognize her?
She was where?
She's on the bus with Josh Duhamel. She's the woman who talks to him.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
hmm We've skipped
So
a lot of some of the stories.
I think we'll need to go back and resolve the actual plot.
Yeah, so let's just, I still have quite a few notes.
Okay, you take over.
So let's talk about the mother-daughter story. We can just talk about the stories in full,
Yeah.
but one of the notes I had was only in American films do teenagers sneak out of windows.
That is a great point. Yeah.
Like, first of all, you would think that they're in an apartment building
Yeah.
and you're hoping to assume that they have a fire escape.
Yeah.
It's New York, and a lot of those buildings do.
Like, yeah,
What if they
regular
don't?
people.
And why is she looking out of a window in New York when it's probably negative 15 or 20?
Yeah,
And her mom's just like opens the door and is like, "Why did I fight so hard for custody?" And like books it and doesn't make the train, even though they've left at the same time. It's just anyway.
yeah.
So with that story, we see them, Sarah Jessica Parker chasing her daughter all around New York, calling her brother, who is Zac Efron,
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, cool uncle, where's my daughter?" He
Yeah.
tells her. She follows her around New York, and we get to Times Square
Yeah.
where she gets there in time for New Year's Eve
Yeah.
and sees the boy she likes
Yeah.
kissing someone else
Yeah.
and cries, turns around, her mom's right there, runs into her arms, which by the way, if it was me, I'd be like, "Why the hell are you here, mom? Like, what the
I
heck?"
know, yeah. One thing at a time. Why are you here?
Yeah, first of all,
Yeah.
how'd you find me? It's
Yeah.
2011. We don't have tracking on our phones yet. Anyway, so that was interesting. They go to a restaurant and her friends show up and she said
Yeah, they're like at a diner. I was like, is that I was trying to work out if that was one of the iconic New York diners
it
because
does it did look like,
yeah,
now I can't remember what diner it's
not
called, but
Moonlight. No, yeah,
yeah,
no,
one
yeah.
of the ones that they sing at, you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. I know the one you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
So it looked like that, but it clearly wasn't. So they were in the diner. Her friends show up and say, "We got backstage passes," because 15-year-olds get backstage passes to some other, to Hard Rock after party.
Yeah.
And one of their friends' moms was following them around. And I laughed every time I saw her because it was so weird.
Yeah.
It was so funny. So Sarah Jessica Parker leaves. We'll come back to her in a second. And
Yeah.
Abigail Brenson and JT Austin pull into the kitchen and he kisses her. And I cringed.
Yeah.
And he turns around and goes, "Who is this lady?" And that was probably the best part about that storyline was like
Because
that.
it's established that he was kissed unconsensually, wasn't it, in the first one?
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
the
I wasn't
other girl
into it.
kissed him.
Yeah.
But also, look, if you didn't see that that happened, yes, maybe she should take his word for it, but
Yeah.
me, as a teenager at that time, if I
Yeah.
saw that and then he came to a restaurant and kissed me, I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, dude,
Yeah. No, that would be like,
Crocs,
yeah,
goodbye."
you'd be thrown with like, yeah, this isn't, yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
would be like, oh, great, it's my turn now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see Sarah Jessica Parker go back to her work,
Uh-huh.
and
Because
she
she
picks
gets
up a dress
plans
that
for,
she was working on. So we'll stop that story there for a
yeah,
moment.
don't want to blow the big
Don't wanna blow the
reveal of
cover.
the, yeah, yeah,
Josh Jamal spends time in R&B with,
Lisa
um,
Simpson
Lisa
and a
Simpson
kid.
and a pastor and a horny grandpa, um, and talks about his speech that he hasn't written,
Yeah,
and then talks about the mystery girl,
yeah,
and then gets dropped off at his work, and
yeah.
Josh Jamal gives a speech that I didn't listen to,
It's, yeah,
and
it's so weird.
then there is a scene where these two girls come up to Josh Duhamel and say, "You ran out on us last year. We're going to finish the year together," insinuating a threesome.
What?
And
That's what
yes,
that's insinuating? I thought
okay,
they were
well,
gonna jump on a bouncy castle, Marnie. That's
again, that was another point where I was like, what is this movie rated?
yeah, yeah,
Very odd.
yeah,
And he gets a moment of clarity
yeah.
and goes, "No, I can't do this." And runs off to meet his mystery girl.
Yeah. Is he
While
like again, this is where I need Kyle for the Star Trek reference, but I'm sure they establish it like Spock's species only mate like once every 7 years or something. It's like, just Josh Duhamel only to hook up with people on New Year's Eve? Is that just why it's
we're
all like, you ran out on us last year, you also ran out on like, you missed with mysterious girl. There's just like nothing. He's just been celibate for the past 11 months and 30 days, but he
I
comes out of
mean,
his
it's
cave.
Josh Jamal. He was not celibate for the last 11 months and 30 days. But
Okay, sorry, you were saying.
okay, so Leah Michelle and Ashton Kutcher are stuck in an elevator. That's their
Yeah,
entire storyline, basically. And
yeah. So
she did,
when that was actually less of their storyline than I predicted, because as soon as they got into that elevator and got stuck, I was like, okay, you're going to be Julia Roberts and Bradley Cooper. I was like, Ashton Kutcher will have a lot on, and he will be like, I don't have that much time to film. I can't like jet about between locations. So if you just
mm,
keep me in one spot, sure, we can film this in one day and that's it. So when Ashton Kutcher is seen anywhere other than the lift, I was like, okay, that's more than I was expecting. But
yeah,
still, yeah, like 99% of their storyline takes place in the
yeah.
lift.
It's a very good theory
Yeah.
because it is very similar to that scene in
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they're in the lift. She takes out all the garbage that he threw out and put it everywhere, which was
Yeah.
like ridiculous. And then he's drawing, and she predicts his life story,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever,
She's like, let me
boring.
guess, you hate New Year's because you got
Got
your heart
heartbroken.
broken
Yeah.
one year. And
Yeah.
he's
Yes.
like, not, she was like, you got your heart broken at a club one year. And he's like, actually, it was a bar, but yes. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like,
And so he starts drawing, and there's a scene where Jensen is playing live at the
yeah.
party he's supposed to be playing at, and they have Leah Michelle singing as well because she told Ashton she would sing.
Because
And
he sees like the there's like a vent,
yeah,
and she's like, oh cool, you can get out of here, and this is where she establishes that he hates New Year, because he's like, what does it matter, in an elevator, out of an elevator, it's all the same. And she's like,
yeah,
I don't care, I want to get out of here, can you lift me up? And he's like, what are you, Spider-Man? And as he's lifting her up, he sees like a lanyard, and he's like, are you a groupie or something? And then it later gets established that she is like a singer and is one of the backing vocalists
which
for,
is one of my notes.
yeah.
No shock Leah Michelle is singing in a singing role. She's always singing. She's always trying to show that she's singing. It is her whole persona. So anyway, they have John Bon Jovi,
Yeah.
and
Could we not have had a plot line where Leah Michelle is going to do like a reading at like a bookstore and she's like, uh-oh, oh my God. Oh. Anyway, sorry.
do you know that there's a rumor that Leah Michelle doesn't know how to read?
That's what I'm
Oh,
referencing,
okay,
Marni.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought that you just made that up.
No, no.
I was like, no, that's funny.
I was like, the only two things I know about her, sings, can't read.
Yeah.
So,
But so they have Leah Michelle sing, no
yeah,
shock. And if this, like, he's watching her like, oh, this is so lovely.
yeah.
If I was in an elevator with someone and they just started randomly singing, and also she's singing parts that are her part, but not his
It's not a
part,
complete
she's just
song, no,
missing.
yeah.
Yeah, it was so odd to anyway.
I've never thought about that, but just I'm now picturing being confined to an elevator with like a musical theater kid who's just doing it, and I'm like, oh my God. When we
Yeah.
got rescued, it would be like, I don't know, like I forget, have you seen Skyfall? The
Yeah.
James Bond film, you know, where Javier Bardem has that like, you know how you deal with ants. You put all the ants in a barrel. You put hundreds of ants in a barrel, and then at the end you have only one ant. And this, not ants, rats. And then at the end, this rat has the taste for other rats. If it by the time we got rescued from that elevator, there would be only one person because I would have murdered the musical theater kid. Oh, and in fact, did you see the thing with Anna Kendrick getting stuck in an elevator at TIFF?
No.
Anna Kendrick got stuck in an elevator at TIFF and she like live streamed it. And it was just interesting to follow like on Instagram or whatever. Like it's hour number 4 of people being stuck in an elevator.
Oh my God, I gotta look this up.
Yeah, yeah, look it up. She was doing a pitch perfect medley, and the other people were like, okay, how long do we give it before we knock her out?
That's awkward.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, so okay, so we've established all their life goals and whatever. And
yeah,
then the thing that was so weird to me, and this is where it bothered me, this is where Ashton bothered me,
yeah,
was she puts all the garbage up and she starts saying, okay, let's pretend we're at a party and we see each other from across the room.
yeah,
And like, you know where this is going. She's talking about that they're at a New Year's party. You see couples, you see where it's across the room. So she basically is like, hey, I'm gonna hit on you now
yeah.
and we're gonna kiss. And he just flips from cranky guy to, oh, a girl's into me. Okay, great. Now I'm
He's
gonna fall
Ashton
over with
Kutcher.
puppy
He's not
dog.
used to women being into Marni. He has to seize this opportunity. This doesn't
Of
happen every
course.
day.
Anyway, yeah, it was just like a very odd moment. Of course, in classic rom-com, the kiss was interrupted, never actually happened
God
until
damn it.
later in
Leave
the
us in
film.
here for 5 more minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
please close the door.
Ashton Kutcher's like, I'm about to kiss a girl for the first time. Please, not now.
Yeah, and then the super is like, I'm gonna watch the tapes to see if you had sex. Like,
Yeah, so that's Belushi. Belushi is like, we didn't put the bench in there so that you kids could screw on it. And he's like, I didn't, mister, I swear. And he's like, well, I'm gonna watch the tape to check. And if you do, you best believe I'm gonna be keeping that tape.
yeah,
But yeah, no.
he's the
So
boyfriend that he's gonna go crush the beer with.
yeah.
That would be a great workaround. But so then he follows her to Times Square.
Yeah.
For someone who hates New Year's, ending up in Times Square.
Yeah. But that's
Okay,
just what, like you've got to that's what love can do. You're in love with
apparently.
someone for 5 minutes and then suddenly you're a new man and
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so back to the maternity ward, battle of the pregnancies.
Okay, I have another note here, which is the
Okay.
nurse is kind of participating in it. So they've spoken to like their like doctor who's played by, oh god damn it, what's her name? I kind of like this actor. What is
Yeah,
her?
she looks familiar. The only note I had about her was, please don't let me have a doctor like that when I go through
Yeah, yeah,
giving birth. It was too like, okay, and now we breathe. No,
yeah,
give me the drugs and
yeah.
get this thing out of me.
So it's Carla Gugino who is their doctor, which it makes for like a hilarious comedic beat because she's like so yeah, you want to do like a natural labor and you're all about this kind of like hippy dippy stuff. And then
Yeah.
Seth Myers is like, no, forget all that. Give us whatever drugs you need to induce labor. Could you do a cesarean? Like, how long does it take? Could we book in a cesarean for 11:59 this evening?
Yeah. Just make sure the kid's out in 1 minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not too worried about pain, just as long as it's quick, really. So
Just
yeah.
add on to my debt. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Put this baby on my tab.
Put it on the
That's
tab.
yeah. So they've spoken to her, and then the other couple come back in, and by this point they're like, "Are you eating anchovies because you're trying to induce labor?" Like, hey, watch out, this is our thing. And the like doctor basically has to break them up. And then at one point the doctor says, like, okay, so everyone's here. Good luck, fellas. The TV's over there. The bar is open till
Yeah.
12. And ladies, may the best vajayjay win. And I was like, any medical practitioner who says that sentence should immediately have their license removed. I was like, you should never practice again. Those are words which have passed your lips. God. So
I
it's
also found though that Jessica and Seth Myers were pretty calm about having a kid.
yeah,
Like they were competitive, but they were like, "We're having a kid. We didn't know about this. We were still having a kid yesterday. We're prepared."
yeah,
But then back at home in that scene, which was really interesting. Well, also shout out to Jessica Biel for doing a headstand. Well, pregnant, obviously she wasn't pregnant, but that was pretty freaking cool
yeah,
for any pregnant women that can do that. That's good on you. I can't do that normally.
yeah.
But so her water breaks,
Yeah.
and suddenly Seth Myers is a basket case.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Because he's like, can you fix it? Can you
but
unbreak
he's
it?
like,
Can you?
unbreak it. Like, we're not
Yeah.
having a kid yet.
Yeah.
So you wanted the kid, you wanted to induce the labor for the prize,
Yeah.
the pregnancy prize. And now you're scared and overwhelmed, even though 2 days ago you didn't know about this and you're having this kid.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like he's suddenly overwhelmed and can't handle it. And it was just like a really, I remember thinking when watching that, like, come
Yeah.
on, dude. Like,
Exactly. It's kind of like you said before, of just like it's like these storylines are made to be quick, so it's just like drama for drama's sake of like
yeah.
he just needs to freak out so she can be like, actually, I don't really care about the money. I just want
Yeah.
this to
He
be
gets
okay.
even more competitive while
Yeah.
freaking out. And she's like, put the drugs
Doesn't
in.
matter. Yeah.
I don't care. I just want the
Yeah.
kid out. Yeah.
Listen, if we only win a quarter for giving birth to this kid, it's okay. As long as it's
Yeah,
with you.
exactly.
Yeah.
This storyline's pretty easy to wrap up. They
Yeah.
have the kid.
And
They
they
had the
win.
kid first. They
Yeah.
win, but they actually end up telling the other couple that they had the baby first so that they could get the money. I don't know if they saw the family with all three kids and they felt
Yeah.
obligated.
And he's just like, if first like the other guy comes in to kind of like, now that it's done, it's been settled, he's like, hey, so this your first time in a baby race? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, I've been here a couple times before. We have three mouths to feed. And then that's the kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'll let you have this one. We can
I
try again.
also like if a strange man that I met 10 hours ago in the maternity ward walked into my room right after me giving birth and said, "What time was
Has a
your kid
peek.
born?"
Yeah, you still going? Like,
Yeah, I'd be like, "Get the fuck out." I don't care.
yeah.
Excuse me, strange man. Go be with the woman who just had your child.
Yeah, go be by your newborn child. Yeah, no.
Oh, anyway. So
Because
that story wrapped up. That was pretty
yeah,
easy.
yeah, they established something earlier on where someone has a deal about like splitting the money, don't they? Of like,
Yeah,
oh,
they said that to the
that's to speak
doctor.
about the cesarean. And he's like, well, they offered me half the money, but you're not even offering me any, so go screw. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's that storyline. So next one up.
So Jensen and Laura, another storyline we kind of skipped over, but ultimately
Yeah.
Jensen left Laura because he proposed and then had commitment issues. The star of that story was Sofia Vergara, horny Sofia Vergara. We love her.
Yeah.
Katherine Heigl wouldn't have gotten this job if it wasn't for Jensen,
Yeah.
and she finds that out and realizes she still loves him, and another typical roundup ending of the story, very boring, if you ask
So
me.
neatly tied. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hilary Swank keeps talking about this appointment that she has to go to. She had confided with Ludacris about this, and you see her running to, she's decided the bulb doesn't matter. I'm going to go to my appointment. You see her running, you see Josh Duhamel running,
Yeah.
and they cross over. And I
Yeah.
think that's the point of that moment happening, is that you think that that is the girl
That's the,
who's
yeah.
going to meet.
Mhm.
In the post credits, you see them make a little joke of it and kiss at that moment, and it was very cute and funny. But
Yeah.
so Josh Jamal goes one way and Hilary Swank goes the other way. We'll maybe start with the sadder part, but Hilary Swank ends up at the hospital where Robert De Niro is, and you find out that that is his daughter
Yeah.
that he had, I guess, abandoned. That seems like what it was. And so
Mhm.
she sneaks him up to the roof to see the ball drop because it was their family tradition, and she ended up becoming the vice president of, the Times Square ball drop. I don't remember the title exactly,
Yeah.
but so clearly that meant a lot to her and him as well, that it manifested in her career.
Yeah.
And so she takes him up to the roof and they watch that. And then you see later on that Hilary Swank is now by herself, which actually I cried a little bit.
Oh,
It was
really?
so sad.
Yeah.
Like, those kinds of moments. And this is the moment where it was the song that they sing at New
Mhm.
Year's, and the scenes
Yeah.
that they were showing were mostly sad scenes. Like
Yeah.
Robert De Niro had gone, Abigail Brinson watched the boy she liked
Yeah.
uh, kiss someone else. You
Yeah.
see Halle Berry saying goodbye to her husband, who was the military person, and saying, she had to go, and seeing that you were away from your loved ones. It just kind of shows as
Yeah. It's
well
not easy for everyone. It's not all parties and threesomes. Some people,
that
yeah.
some people actually have real life things happen that are very sad. So
Yeah.
that's why I
Some
said
people are trapped
consider.
in elevators.
Some people are trapped in elevators.
Yeah.
And this was also, of course, Leah Michelle's shining moment where Jensen wasn't there. He gave up his career for Laura, and Leah Michelle sings the first
Old
song
Lang
of
Syne.
2012.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was sad. But then the nurses said to Hilary Swank, "Do you want to see what we do?" And they went and looked at the babies. And I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah, no,
We'll
that
do that.
was that was the baby scene where it was like it was nice to be like, oh hey, look, like babies are like actual things and not just like flesh that you give birth to in order to win a prize. Like the idea of like, oh, here's
No
parents who are
money here.
celebrating the birth of their child and what family means to those people. That was nice in comparison to the competitive, like, I'm gonna have a kid quicker than you can.
Yeah.
That was a nice, yeah, that was a
Yeah, nice moment. And then, okay, back to Josh Duhamel. He's
hmm
at the meeting spot where
yeah.
he's meeting Mystery Woman, and he's,
Deserted street in Manhattan, like basically just the two, like just him, like it's like
yeah,
empty.
so weird.
Yeah, like
Um,
it's like 12:05 in the city
yeah.
that never sleeps, like completely packed, and somehow he's found a quiet rendezvous spot.
Also weird that it wasn't snowing. Was it snowing in real time when you were there?
It didn't. I don't think it did really. No, like no, there might have been like a couple flakes, but it wasn't really cold enough for it to lie.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, then they
Yeah,
accurately portrayed that.
forecast. Yeah, I forgot to say. I forgot to say when he's on when he's in the RV with Lisa Simpson, he reads out the note which he got from the woman that dream girl that he's going to see on New Year's. And someone like a horny grandpa or whatever asks to read it, and Josh Duhamel recites it like, "Ah, you got it memorized." So yeah, that was just a little detail. And so yeah, there he's ready to meet Mystery Girl, and drum
Indeed.
roll.
He doesn't show up, and then
Yeah,
suddenly a horse-drawn carriage
yeah,
comes around the corner,
yeah,
and out steps, in very typical fashion, in the high heels, in perfect fashion, is Sarah Jessica Parker,
yeah,
that I think everyone kind of predicted. There was a moment earlier where Abigail Brinson says to Sarah Jessica Parker, "Go get a life, go get a man." which you don't need a man to have a life. No, you
Exactly. You shouldn't be, yeah, daughters shouldn't be teaching you that lesson.
yeah,
You should be
but
teaching them the opposite.
yeah, but yeah, it was a moment that was nice that they both kind of got to a point where they had their happily ever after. Most of the stories ended with a nice tight bow. Zac Efron ended up at the party, and you
Yeah.
watch him and Michelle Pfeiffer dance the night away, which was very funny.
And they
Yeah,
kiss
most of
because that's the last thing on the list is she wants to have a New Year's kiss. So Zac Efron plants one on her, and like it's like
she goes, "I'm 20 years older than you."
yeah, exactly. Which again, like I don't know. I think again, it's just it falls in the no man's land thing of like there are certain like you could do that scene where it's kind of like a quick peck and it's just like a fulfill kind of like obligation thing. But because they have that kind of chemistry and you could see them in this May December, you're asking like, oh, is this gonna? It's just it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's odd there.
I
Like
mean, Zac Efron was giving me very like Troy Bolton vibes the whole
yeah,
freaking movie, but especially when he would like the way he was doing his arms and his
yeah,
dance
yeah,
and stuff, it was very funny. But yeah, again, I think we've said this, it is that May December, but it also just doesn't fit. We've rewritten it. We've said how they should have done it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
There you
both
go.
actors are great, so
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's almost a consequence of the actors being too good and them having too much chemistry with each other that you're maybe like, oh, maybe, when really it should be like, no, strictly
yeah.
business. Okay, so is that is that us? I have one more note. We get a cameo from 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Mini Mike Bloomberg. He's in it playing himself. And then like when the ball drops and everyone makes out, like there's like a big montage of tons of people kissing, a lot of them cops. So like the cops who are
Yeah.
just working the event are making out with women in the front row. I was like, I feel like if you're a New York City cop, you shouldn't just be randomly kissing women. And also like
I thought the same. I doubt that would happen in real life.
well, it was quite different when I was there because I was like near the back. I wasn't front row. So maybe these aren't cops. Maybe these are all like kissogram strippers
Actors.
just dressed as cops. Yeah, exactly.
Kissing
And
ground strippers. I
yeah.
love that.
So I was further back on the side and then the ball dropped and I was getting the bus back to Canada in like 4 hours or something. So I was like,
Oh, you
okay,
went back to Toronto?
yeah. So I was like, I've seen the ball. Now I'm gonna go to the bus station and just be like set up and wait for my bus. And so rather than waiting ages to queue and get out round the barriers, tons of people jumped the barriers.
Oh.
And so I was like jumping the barrier and cop pointed at me. I think it was just like a losing battle of tons of people were doing it. And a cop could clearly tell I wasn't quite as confident and I was one of the dogs that you can just be like, no. And so the cop like no, and I was like, okay, sure, buddy. And then I wait until he turned his back to make out with someone and then jumped the barrier. But yeah, no, the cops were they have a lot on their hands.
Yeah.
I
New
don't
York is
think
really crazy for that.
yeah, New York, like 10 years after 9/11, I don't think the cops were like, ah, what's one kiss? Can't really hurt.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, this sort of Brooklyn Nine-Nine scene of like the police captain having to discipline everyone with like, so we looked at your body cam and turns out that you were making out with a bunch of women when the ball dropped. Um, um,
Oh man.
a
That would be
child got
great.
killed in a stampede because you were too busy smooching. And
Yeah.
then the Blu-ray joke. So we get bloopers. And so the bloopers aren't really much to remark
No, we talked
upon.
about them. Like there
Yeah.
was Jessica Biel giving
Yeah.
birth to the Valentine's Day
Yeah. Carla Jr.
Blu-rays.
pulls out like, it's a Blu-ray and a DVD. It's
They're
twins.
twins.
And so yeah, therefore Valentine's Day, which that was where I learned like, okay, this movie was second. Valentine's Day was already out by
Yeah.
this point in time.
Yeah, and then we had the Josh Jamal and Hillary Swank kiss, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Were there any other really funny ones? Not really. I think it was just them
No.
messing up their lines.
It was better than Mother's Day. We didn't get like robot Julia Roberts, where she just
Yes.
powers off, or any really weird ones. They're all just kind of generic,
Oh,
like
I forgot
actors.
about Julia Roberts. Oh
Okay,
man,
so the usual things we speak about, the Razzie worthiness of this film. Do you think it was Razzie worthy?
it's a good question. Is it even on the Razzies for that year? Real question.
Yeah, so I'll give
Oh,
you them. I'll give you them first. So this was 2011, which we've spoken about quite a lot in recent weeks. So the film that won that was Jack and Jill, and Jack and Jill is
yeah.
worse than this film. But this was actually, I think this is the only one that was nominated for Worst Picture. When
Oh,
it's like it's maybe the best. Like Mother's Day is by far and away the worst, but
for sure.
it might just be the festive season, New Year. I had a fun time with this film.
It was a fun time. Like I definitely enjoyed lots of aspects of it. I was never really annoyed at any point, whereas
No,
in other films I definitely had been.
yeah. Like we said, it drags
Surprising.
when we were both like, how is there an hour left in this? Um, and by the
Yeah,
time that
we
Josh
texted each
Duhamel's
other
giving
that.
his speech, which should be like the sort of pinnacle climax of the film, and it's like, yeah, no, have I got laundry to do? If I file my
Yeah.
taxes,
I
yeah.
was texting you, how is there an hour left in it?
Yeah.
No, I mean, the cast was great. We both love New York, so it was
Yeah,
a good city to take place in. It's much more interesting than the other films.
for
And the
sure.
storylines, I think, were slightly better because of New Year's. On
Yeah,
their own, they may have been more of a Mother's Day thing for us, I think. So
yeah.
New Year's tied it together in the way that it was supposed to, in the way that it represented that the film is about New Year's. Is it Razzie worthy? No.
Yeah, no, I agree. So it got the most nominations.
No.
So yeah, it was nominated for Worst Picture, Worst Director Gary Marshall, Worst Actress. Do you want to guess who this was?
Ooh, oh. I don't know. No, I want to guess. I don't want to say Michelle Pfeiffer.
No, it
Probably say
wasn't.
Jessica Parker.
Yeah, SJP. Which yeah, she's kind of an easy target for the Razzies, I guess.
Yeah. But she played herself. She played
Yeah,
Carrie Bradshaw just as a mom.
yeah.
Like
No one in this is really
bad.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're all just doing the thing that you know them for. And then we're
exactly.
screenplay, Catherine Fugate, and we're screen ensemble, the entire cast.
Oh,
So
I
yeah,
thought they were the best group out of the
I
three
know.
films.
I agree. Yeah. Like Valentine's
Wow.
Day, there was some like Taylor Swift I was like could lose you, but like
Yeah.
everyone here I was kind of rooting for.
And they were, like we said, more consistently big names.
Yeah.
Now, some of the other films had bigger names, but
Yeah.
across the board
Everyone
more consistently.
yeah, this was just like even the really small actors, like I missed Alyssa Milano, but she was in this.
Oh, she
Um,
was?
yeah. So even the like one scene people are still big names, whereas you're right, in the other ones, it's like here's like Julia Roberts, but because she's on so much money, here's a guy who you might recognize from an episode of Modern Family. Whereas in this, everyone was quite equal.
Well enough known. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Recognized.
it won an award from the Alliance of Women Film Journalists, actress most in need of a new agent. All actresses in New Year's Eve.
Oh
So,
my God.
yeah, yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. I just kind of see these movies as like charity work of us like everyone is just in it for fun. You're not going to be doing that much, but you're like, sure, I'll be in a film with Robert De Niro. Sure, I'll be like, sure, a couple days. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just
Well,
like,
I mean, you probably go into it. If it was me going into it, I would say who would be my
yeah,
partner in the film because that's who you're going to spend your time with. Like
yeah,
Ashton Kutcher didn't see Robert De Niro,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
But
You're
if they
like,
told me, "Oh, you're going to go work with Zac Efron, you're going to go
Zac
work
Efron's
with
gonna
Robert
give
De
you a
Niro,"
tour of New York
I would do
you're like,
it.
how much are you paying me again? How much do I need to pay you?
Yeah, I'll pay you for that.
Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I don't really think this is Razzie worthy. Of the three, this is the best
The
probably, and
least.
certainly the least Razzie
Yeah.
worthy. Like there are bad parts
Yeah.
in Valentine's Day, even if I like that. But yeah, this is a fun time.
Did they win any?
No,
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 they're just
just
nominated.
yeah, 5 nominations,
Well,
but no wins. Apart from that one from the women Alliance of Women Film Journalists.
that was
Where is your solidarity, sisters?
that was aggressive.
Maybe that was for the
I do
message
kind of
of
get it.
yeah, it's not a
I
very feminist film, is it?
no, no.
So, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And we've kind of spoken about our fixes of how changes and alterations we would make. So,
Yeah, I definitely it's not
yeah,
a
yeah,
2023 film. Like, life has changed
yeah,
significantly, so we know that. Apparently, all the
yeah.
actresses need new agents, and,
Yeah, the
I don't
same
know,
things
these
kind of apply.
fictional
Of like this
stories.
has dated quite a bit, and like yeah, like little like the sexual politics of the film that would be like updated in 2023, and like again, once again, all all applies. This is an incredibly white film of like Halle Berry's
Yeah,
barely in it, and so yeah, it's like yeah, no actors of color really get any sizable roles. So yeah, this is a little interesting time capsule. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining us, Mara. You are released. Jeannie, you are free. You-
I need a new franchise to do with you guys.
yeah.
I have a new contract.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll find something for you to come back on.
No, it's been really
Yeah, I'm
fun.
glad you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed having you on. Yeah, so thanks on behalf of me and Kyle.
Well, you did. Kyle couldn't even
No,
be
Kyle's
bothered
the
to show
opposite of
up,
he's like,
but
"Oh, it's great. Marnie can pay attention to things. It's a load off my it's so good having Marnie on because I don't have to do as much work."
um,
So yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on. So next week, listeners, we will be back to you with our episode on the weird British movies which have avoided Razzie scrutiny. If you have enjoyed this episode, then you can follow us on social media where we are watching worst, and you can email the show at watchingworstfilms@gmail.com. So yeah, this is coming out, just doing the maths. This is coming out at the end of 2023. So I guess well wishes to Kyle. Get well soon. Thank you for joining us, Marnie. And thank you, listeners, for joining us throughout the year. So yeah, happy new
Happy
year
New
to
Year.
everyone. Have a whether you spend it locked in a lift with Ashton Kutcher or whether you spend it in Times Square watching the ball fail to drop, or perhaps in a maternity ward trying to rush out a child before before 2024. All the best for the coming year. Thank you for joining us and take care.